So today, let's jump into a really deep theological puzzle. When we talk about the end times, is the resurrection of the martyrs a single massive event? Or, does it happen in stages? We're going to dive into this because according to the source material we're looking at, the answer, well, it changes pretty much everything. And this is not just some small detail for theologians to argue about. Nope. The question of one resurrection versus several is presented as a central mystery. The answer has these huge ripple effects for how the final chapter of history is supposed to unfold. And believe me, the stakes are incredibly high. This one answer determines who's left on earth to face the 7 plagues. It tells us if any believers are still around during that final intense period of trial. And maybe most importantly, it pinpoints the exact moment when faith is truly and finally proven. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start with the puzzle itself. Then we'll set the stage with the time of great trial. From there, we'll explore this idea of a singular event, understand why it's considered the ultimate proof, tackle a really tricky question about a new kingdom, and then finally, get to the source's final verdict. So, first things first, let's get really clear on what we're talking about here. We are not talking about every resurrection ever mentioned in Scripture. This is laser-focused on what the source calls the first resurrection, specifically the resurrection of saints martyred for their faith before that final judgment. All right, so to really get a handle on this resurrection, you first got to know when it's all supposed to go down. The source calls this whole period the time of great trial. Now, this period is called the first half week. That's a translation from the Korean Jeonban Ilide, and it's defined as this intense 42-month reign of a figure known as the Beast. During this time, worship is forced. If you refuse, the penalty is death. This is the era that creates the very martyrs that are the whole focus of our discussion today. So here's the sequence of events laid out in the source. Think of it like a timeline. First, the great trial kicks off and martyrs are made. This goes on until a specific, preordained number of martyrs is reached. Once that number is filled, and only then does this singular event, the first resurrection, actually happen. And this brings us right to the heart of it all, the core argument of the source material. After all that buildup, what is the nature of this first resurrection? The author's conclusion? It's crystal clear. It happens just once. It is a single decisive moment that takes place at the very end of that 42-month period. It's not in stages, not in parts, it's all at once. Boom. And just look at the contrast here. It's night and day. Before this event, you've got saints on earth living under the beast's rule, and martyrdom is a constant threat. But after this one single resurrection, everything flips. According to this source, there are no saints left on earth, the 7 plagues begin, and those martyrs, they're now reigning in heaven. So the aftermath is absolutely crucial. I mean, think about it. If all the saints who refuse to worship the beast are resurrected and taken away in one go, who's left? The only people left on earth are those who did worship the beast. And that means, logically, there can't be any more martyrs, which means there's no need for a second or third resurrection event. The stage is then set for the 7 plagues, which are poured out on those who remain. Okay, so we've covered the what and the when, but why? Why is this single event framed as being so incredibly important? What's its ultimate purpose? The reason, according to the source, is just profound. The resurrection isn't just some reward for the faithful. It is the ultimate proof that the divine commandments, to love God and love your neighbor, even if it costs you your life, are true and just. And this slide really breaks down that logic step by step. It's like a domino effect. It starts with the commandment to love. Martyrdom is the most extreme expression of that love. The resurrection, then, is the divine proof that this kind of love actually conquers death itself. This leads to justification, proving God's law isn't just some impossible ideal. And finally, it all culminates in completion, where the whole point of creation and free will is perfected and validated. Okay, but wait a second. This whole single resurrection theory brings up a pretty fascinating new question, one you might be thinking of right now. If all the righteous saints are taken from the earth, who's left to actually live in the millennial kingdom that's supposed to come next? I mean, it's a totally logical problem, right? You can't have a kingdom without people. If the only ones left on earth were judged unrighteous, where do the citizens of this new kingdom come from?
The source looks at 2 main views. View 1 says they're physical survivors of the tribulation, but the author pushes back on this, saying, hey, anyone left would have either been martyred or taken the mark of the beast. View 2 is way more intriguing. It suggests the kingdom is populated by resurrected souls, given what the text calls a soulish body. In Korean, that's honjuging mum. and they're brought back specifically to have their faith tested after 1,000 years.
All right, so after looking at the timeline, the arguments, and all the theological implications, what's the final verdict from the source? And the conclusion is really firm on this. The resurrection of the martyrs, it seems, is indivisible. It has to be a single unified event because its purpose is singular and ultimate, to provide the final, undeniable proof needed to complete the entire purpose of creation itself. And this quote, wow, it just captures the essence of the entire argument. This isn't just another event in the timeline, it's the absolute linchpin of the whole thing. It is the moment of final confirmation, where, according to this text, all doubts about divine love and justice are erased forever. So we'll end with this thought to chew on. If one single event, the resurrection of a very specific number of martyrs, is what it takes to justify divine law for all of creation, what does that really imply about the cosmic scale of free will, of sacrifice, and the ultimate meaning of justice? That's the question this analysis leaves us with.